Hi everybody, my name is Sean Garvey and I'm a lecturer here in GMIT and Letterfrack, and you're very welcome to my presentation today. And the presentation is going to tell the story of sustainability, creativity and collaboration, and it'll be told through the medium of a project we undertook here earlier in the year called Reimagining the Sligo Tume Chair. The presentation is going to begin by giving a background as to how the project came about. And then I'll go on to highlight some of the environmental benefits of using this model of using local sustainable timber in the manufacture of a beautiful heirloom piece of furniture, I suppose, where the carbon locked up as the tree was growing gets a new life and continues to be locked up for many, many years to come in that beautiful furniture. So here we are. This is GMIT Letterfrack, situated, as you can see, in beautiful Connemara, County Galway. So we're the National Centre for Excellence in Furniture Design and Technology, and we're part of GMIT's School of Design. So by way of a background as to how the project came about, well, the National Museum of Country Life in Thurlock Park, Castlebar, County Mayo, they had built up a collection of over 90 chairs, a particular type of chair known as the Sligo or Tume chair, and they wanted to exhibit those vernacular traditional chairs. And that exhibition is now underway, and it'll continue until September 2022. So the museum also wanted to feature chairs designed and created by the makers of tomorrow, and so they invited our students of the Furniture Design and Manufacture program here in GMIT Letterfrack to reimagine that traditional chair. Traditionally, the Sligo Tume chair would have been made from local materials, and oftentimes it would have been made from oak. So we wanted to afford our students the opportunity to make their chairs out of oak. But I suppose it's not that simple. Over 90% of the timber available, the hardwood timber particularly available for furniture and joinery in Ireland, is imported. However, about 50% of the timber that we use in the college is homegrown. And we have a very strong ethos here in GMIT Letterfrack of sustainability, and it was very, very important to us that the raw material, particularly the oak that we used in this project to make the chairs, it was really important that it came from a sustainable source. As my presentation is being recorded here today, the UN Climate Change Conference has taken place in Scotland, COP26, and the big talking point in the background is obviously the dual crises that we face at the moment, climate change and biodiversity loss. And trees and forestry are seen as a potential mitigating factor against those two crises. The beauty about trees is as they grow, they absorb carbon from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. So in taking in carbon dioxide and water from the soil, and with the help of the sun's energy and chlorophyll in the leaves, they turn all of that into a type of carbohydrate known as glucose, and in the process they can release oxygen back into the atmosphere. But not all forests are created equal. In other words, the management practices can often dictate how environmentally friendly the forest is, or even the amount of carbon that's sequestered within it. So in other words, how efficient it is at taking in, absorbing carbon from the atmosphere. So we said carbon dioxide is absorbed during photosynthesis, and some of this carbon is locked away into the tree's biomass, like for instance the leaves, the roots, the branches, the stem, all that kind of thing. And some of this is released by the tree into the soil, some of the carbon, where the soil microbes can feed off it. So as I said, trees absorb carbon, but however, forests also naturally release carbon back into the atmosphere as these microbes break down the material, converting it back into CO2. And the roots also respire and they release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere as well. So according to research for the first 10 or 20 years of a forestry plantation's life, it's a net source of carbon. In other words, it's emitting more than it's sequestering or taking in or locking up. However, there comes a tipping point then after which the forest becomes a net carbon sink. And so the older the forest or the trees within it, the more carbon that it can sequester or lock away, in the form of wood or other forms of biomass. The vast majority of commercial forestry in Ireland is managed on a rotational basis, and generally that would be clear felled and then replanted again. But clear felling can lead to issues with soil erosion, with water pollution. Habitat fragmentation can lead to a loss of biodiversity, and it might have a landscape impact or an amenity value impact. There's also a large carbon release from the soil at the time of clear fell. There is, however, another type of forest management where the trees are never clear felled, and this is called continuous cover forestry, or CCF. And basically CCF relies on, generally speaking, it would rely on the natural forest processes such as natural regeneration, mixed species, increased biodiversity, and natural forest development. And for this reason, it's often called close to nature forestry as well. Here the forest is often managed where selected good quality trees are allowed to grow onto an older age than they would be in the clear fell system. And then they're selectively harvested generally speaking, for higher value products. It is, however, important to note that not all forestry is suited to CCF, but research has shown that for those that are, and if they're managed correctly, they can perform better or provide good results in terms of climate change and biodiversity loss. And at the moment, less than 5% of Irish forests are managed under CCF. And then the two images here, we're looking at contrasting even-aged single species in the top plantation there with uneven-aged kind of mixed woodlands in the bottom image. And then in the bottom image, then we can see that the little seedlings, naturally regenerated seedlings, are waiting in the waiting room under the canopy until the high quality stabilizer trees are harvested. The older stabilizer trees are harvested, and when that happens, then they create a light disturbance, basically allow light to hit the forest floor or the little naturally regenerated seedlings. And when that happens, then these little sprinters then shoot out of the blocks and become bigger trees and eventually take over from the stabilizers that were removed. So here we can see a typical young plantation forest managed under CCF, and we can see different heights in the canopy and different species and different light levels, I suppose, hitting the lower canopy. So these then are more examples of CCF managed woodlands. On the picture on the left there, we can see different age classes, I suppose. We can see the so-called seedlings in the waiting room, and we can see some sprinters maybe, and also some stabilizer trees. Picture on the right then, we can see some natural regeneration, very, very small natural regeneration. And coming up in a second then, we're going to see a video by Quilcha called What's Going On in the Dublin Mountains, an introduction to continuous cover forestry. And in the video, Karen Woods, who's an operation manager with Quilcha Nature, she's going to explain what's going on and a bit more about CCF, and see if you can see the trees marked for harvest.
As part of the Dublin Mountains Makeover, we're doing continuous cover forestry, CCF for short, which is a close-to-nature forestry approach that mimics natural processes. To maintain a permanent tree canopy and protect the integrity of the forest habitat, we take out individual or small groups of trees. With this, light hits the forest floor and young trees grow in the gaps, developing into a multi-generational forest with different layers in the canopy. We'll be adding to the species mix with native broadleaf trees as well to create more autumn colour and a more diverse habitat for a greater range of birds and insects. Already we can see natural regeneration of spruce taking place in an area where trees have blown over and created a gap.
So I think the little animated snippet in the middle of the video there was very helpful in kind of explaining continuous cover forestry, and also the fact that we can kind of help nature along by interplanting with different species if we need to. So as it happens, I'm a member of the committee of ProSilva Ireland, and ProSilva are an organisation that are concerned with promoting continuous cover forestry, where the management approach takes both market and non-market objectives and the whole forest ecosystem into consideration. And Karen Woods is also a member of the ProSilva Ireland committee. And I mentioned that earlier, that sustainability and sustainable sourcing of raw material is very important to us here in the college. And in recent years, we've invested in equipment that allows us to, take in our logs and convert and dry our own timber. So another one of our colleagues on the ProSilva committee is Sean Hoskins, and Sean is a forester, and he was managing some forestry under CCF as well in an estate in Carlow, and he mentioned that he was getting some logs, mainly oak, ready for sale, and would we be interested in buying them? And of course, we thought it was a perfect opportunity for us. And that CCF managed forest in County Carlow is on the historic Borris House estate, and it's owned by the McMurrough Kavanagh family. So we did purchase that load of timber from Carlow, and it was mainly made up of oak. And one thing we found interesting, actually, we found out afterwards, was that, and some of the staff from the museum found interesting as well, was that the oak that our students would eventually use to make their chairs, it came from two plantations on the estate, and they were planted in 1780 and 1820. And those kind of dates coincided with when the original Sligo and Tuam chairs were being designed and made. So we found that very interesting. And so one of the important things for us as well was that that estate in Carlow was being managed under CCF. So these are some of the logs on site in Carlow, and we can see Martin in the photographs assessing the logs for quality, and we went down to have a look at them before we purchased them. And the logs were delivered up to us in GMIT Letterfrack in 2018. So there are lots of different ways of converting the logs into boards, and at this stage then we had to kind of assess the logs again and see what was the best way to cut them up. Would we quarter saw them? Would we cut them through and through? And we wanted to yield the best quality and the best character out of all of the logs. The college sawing equipment in action. So we decided that quarter sawing was the way to go, and that it would give us the best quality boards and what we were looking for. And so we decided to cut the logs into 2-inch boards. And the rule of thumb then for air drying is roughly a year per inch. So because ours were 2 inches thick, then it was going to take us about two years to air dry the timber down to a moisture content of about 16 to 18%. And after that, then they needed to be kiln dried. So we can see the stack of oak here ready for air drying. So after the 2 years, then the stack of oak was ready to be kiln dried, and that kiln drying process for oak takes about 6 to 8 weeks in the kiln. So you can see it here, just about ready to be rolled into the kiln on the carriages. So thankfully, after all of that time, we ended up with really high quality timber, and you can see the picture on the left. It's got beautiful character, and we can see the medullary rays, the really striking pattern of the medullary rays on the oak here. So fast forward to spring this year, and we can see some of our students working on the manufacture of their originally designed chairs. And the next few slides will show some of the finished pieces made by our very, very talented and creative students under the support and guidance of their two lecturers for this project, Anthony Clare and Davin Larkin. Matthew Shakespeare with his chair. And we have a very special, prestigious internal award in GMIT Letterfrack. And that award is given for the best made piece in a particular year. And Matthew won it in 2021 for his chair. And so sustainability continues in GMIT Letterfrack, and every year our students will plant acorns. You can see the seedlings here in the picture, and those seedlings will go on to be the oak furniture of the future. So if you'd like any further information, you can check out these websites, including our own from GMIT Letterfrack. I want to say thank you to Rosa Meehan from the Museum of Country Life, and also to Mayo County Council for inviting me to speak and giving me the opportunity to present here today. The exhibition Our Irish Chair Tradition Revisited is taking place at the National Museum of Country Life in Castlebar until September 2022, and it's definitely well worth a visit. At the exhibition, you'll be able to see examples of the original vernacular furniture and also the new reimagined chairs by our students of GMIT in Letterfrack. At this stage, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to watch and listen, and I hope you found my presentation and story interesting.